The history of blacks in sports is a very interesting topic to learn about. The articles found on racial discrimination in sports show not only racial, but mental, social, and economic adversities that black people went through in the early and late 1900s. In the first article, written by the Duke University Law School, talks about how economically and socially discriminated Negroes were in sports, due to how whites believed that they were superior to them at the time and how they didn't believe and Negroes were smart enough to take on leading positions. An example used from this article to show the adversities that blacks had to go through in sport is professional baseball. Negroes were paid significantly lower and confined to certain positions on the field, such as outfield, so they wouldn't have to make quick decisions or any smart decisions. The next article is credible because it was written by Indiana University Press, as they are recognized as the leading academic publisher in humanities and social sciences. The press tells how in South Africa there was still segregation disguised as apartheid, and how sports helped lift that. The Indiana University Press talked about how the apartheid law was publicized nationally, and South African government prepared to change/modify their apartheid law to avoid being isolated from international sport, because other nations were upset with South Africa not allowing all races to participate in international sport. As said in the articles, the non-whites were confined to the ghettos. These players during the apartheid were badly paid, exploited, overworked, and denied the training facilities they needed. The sport bodies were only open to the white fifth of the nation, and it just goes to show the racial, mental, social, and economic adversities that they went through. The world's largest university press, with the widest global presence, Oxford University Press, is the author of this next article. And the article explains the ups and downs blacks had to face in playing professional football. The lack of black players in football brought attention from the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and the Congress of Racial Equality. And with the big increase in black players in the NFL, there was a lot more discrimination, such as the insensitivity of racism, they couldn't get decent housing, and the limit of blacks on one team. Sage Publications, a leading international provider and the author of this next article, talks about the racial and ethnic discrimination in professional sports. They talk of the racial integration in baseball after 1947 and how all teams still weren't budging. When Jackie Robinson broke the color line, there was a lot of evidence showing the discrimination he received, even from his own team. Teams were threatening to strike, then play against him. Robinson was receiving death threats, and even one of his teammates asked to be traded and play alongside him. And this just goes to support my thesis. And not only were there racial discriminations, but economic as well. There was an unequal hiring standards, as blacks were held to a higher performance standard than whites. And there was even a salary difference, as blacks weren't being paid as much as whites were. This article, written by Harry Edwards, who also works with Sage Publications, talks about the leadership roles that very little Negroes could obtain and the economic adversities that they had to go through in the sport. Positions such as quarterback in football, catcher in baseball, head coach, and manager are such positions that only white males need apply, because those are positions of dominance where white people are, in a way, could still control what black people do, as said in the article. Also stated in the article, most black college athletes didn't graduate. This was due to the inadequate academic preparation. One study indicated that the University of Illinois, 67% of black athletes majored in physical education, but 65% failed to graduate. The next article was written by Donald Spivey, a writer of many books specializing in African American history. He talks about the racial abuse and discrimination by opponents, fans, teammates, coaching, and so on. For example, college football star Kenny Washington, who was the leading ground carrier in collegiate football for the New York University in 1939, was not selected for the All-American team, nor was he to play in the college All-Star game. And things like this led to major protests to end racial discrimination in sports, such as the sit-in, which was a nonviolent movement in civil disobedience. It was used to help in the fight to end racial discrimination in New York University's athletic program. This protest was centered around Leonard Bates, a black star of the New York University football team. They were scheduled to play the University of Missouri, and as most teams, drew a staunch color line against interracial sporting events, which forced Bates to stay behind. A major protest of over 2,000 students was brought together. The protest served notice to all colleges, as Harvard University, Boston College, and many other colleges quickly followed behind. This protest shows why the discrimination towards blacks was so prominent and the causes of it. In conclusion, after analyzing all these articles and why and all the ways whites tried to keep African Americans under, it is clear to see that blacks received not only racial, but mental, social, and economic adversities as well.